I'm here with my friend Kathleen today. Thank you so much for being willing to do this with me.
Thank you, I'm honored.
At More Than we try to honor all forms of mothering, and if there was ever a woman that nurtured and loved my girls and all other children, it's you. So sorry to make you cry right off the bat.
No, I really appreciate it. It means a lot, especially coming from you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So Kathleen is our children's librarian. She was a school teacher for 20 years, most of that in elementary school, kindergarten and first.
Yep.
And has been a children's librarian for 22 years.
That's right.
And is married to Justin, and a stepmom of 3,
Yes.
grandma of 5.
Yes.
And I'm excited to pick your brain.
Okay.
Today.
I hope I have something to do. You can
You absolutely do.
Okay.
I first just want to know, you've spent 42 years working with children.
I have.
Why children? What do you love about working with children?
Oh, that's such a good question. I love who children are. I love that they're in the moment, that they don't have I don't see that they have some of the same challenges that adults do, which is looking either ahead or behind. They're in the moment. I think there's great wisdom to stay in the moment. I love their innocence, and I love that they are pretty comfortable saying what they think and what they feel without too much of a filter. And I think there's a lot to learn from that. And I just delight in how they see the world.
That's a great answer. As working as an educator for so long, I'm wondering if you can, obviously you see some trends there.
Yes.
Wondering what kind of key predictors you see as far as a child's success. What do you know is happening at the home or not happening in the home that will help or hurt a child in school?
I can say that when I was a teacher, whenever I had parent-teacher conferences, and I, of course, always had the kids in their conferences with the parents as well, because I always saw that as kind of a three-legged stool, myself, the parents, and the child all together. And parents would almost always ask me, what can I do to help my child? And then you just fill in the blank, help my child do better in school, help my child keep doing well in school, help my child read, help my child do math. It didn't matter to me, whatever was fill in the blank. How can I help my child get along better with others? I mean, all of those questions, and my answer was always the same. It was read aloud to them, sing to them, cook with them, and take walks with them. And I think that those 4 things that parents and all of us can do with our children make the biggest difference, because each one of them comes down to time together, meaningful time together. And I'm a big believer in getting children outside. For lots of reasons, but I mean literally every single day of the year that I taught, we went outside, because I want kids to know that what their world is, and I want children to feel this is their world. And so that's the outside part of it. And the inside part, I love parents who take the time to cook with their children, whatever it is, because there's language going on. Of course, there's math and reading and science and all those other things. But to me, it's the connection that happens on those one-on-one, or if there's more than one child, 1-on-2 or 1-on-3 times, that I think they teach a lot, and they store memory quite strongly. I know my own some of my strongest memories of growing up are with my mother cooking, and it's just what she did. And we were just a natural part of it. So I'm a big believer in that. And of course, reading aloud, it just doesn't get any better than that.
Right.
Language and emotional time together. And I love when I go out to do presentations, like to adults in the community, to talk about literacy. I did just actually a couple weeks ago to a group of mamas. And I said, I could ask all of us to close our eyes in here and go back to our childhood and see if we can pull memories up of someone reading aloud to us. And I said, and if you have that memory, then you know that feeling. And if you don't have that memory, and many of us don't, you have the capacity to give that to your child. So 20 years from now, when there's some other old librarian saying to your child, close your eyes and think about someone who read aloud to you, I mean, it just makes me cry. There is that immediate gift that lasts forever.
Right.
So, yeah.
I love that. Say those 4 again for me. Outside every day, outside time.
Read aloud with them, cook with them, sing with them.
Cook with them and sing with them.
Because I think singing has the capacity, I think music has the capacity to connect us all, but particularly with our children, in different ways. And you probably have heard this story many times since you've been at the library for years with their kids, but I will share it because it's a powerful one. When I was in the 2nd grade, my music teacher, we had an itinerant music teacher that came to our school because we were a very rural school, so like I think it was once every month or something, the music teacher came, and she said to me, I think it would be better if you didn't sing, Katie. They called me Katie or Kathy back then. And she said, because it really hurts my ears when you sing. So why don't you stand here at the piano and turn the pages for the rest of us, and it'll be better. Now I was in 2nd grade, so I was 7, I'm 63, so 56 years ago. I can still feel that feeling. I can still hear her words. I can still see her face. And I didn't sing aloud, and I didn't ever sing out loud until I got to college and was studying to be a teacher. And then I realized, oh, kids don't really care what you sound like.
Yeah.
That whatever sound you make, as long as you're loving and having a good time with them, they love it. But it was a powerful lesson for me in terms of connection and disconnection, and I think music has that capacity to connect us, and it's a huge gift to help read aloud and for language. So that's what I recommend.
Oh, I love that. I love those 4. I've never heard those put together. That's really cool.
Okay.
Did you really take your class outside every day?
Every day.
That's incredible.
Every single day. And I have to say, winter is not my favorite season.
Yeah.
You know, especially in kindergarten when you get the boots on, you get the boots off, you get the snowsuits on, you get them. But I thought if I'm going to really say that the environment is important, then we better do it. And I always think it's so ironic that we talk about weather in the classroom. When weather's outside, it's like, let's go outside.
I never thought of
You
that.
know.
That's so true.
Or, you know, we open our science books and we look at different kinds of leaves. And I'm like, okay, but why are we outside looking at leaves, kind of a thing. So, yeah, we always had a child that called every day in my classroom our town had maybe this one does too, had a number you could call and give you the temperature. And so they would call and we would record, you know, and then we go out and see, did it feel that temperature to us? And there's just a lot of math and I just think just really good learning that was taking place with that. So
That's cool. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
That's
of
really
course.
cool. So obviously you're very passionate about books. You talked
Yeah.
about what they have to offer our children a little bit. I think a lot of moms feel like they're too busy to find great books on the shelves,
Yeah.
or even that there's a lot of terrible books
Yeah.
to find
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So do you have tips or resources on how to find great books for your kids?
Oh, that's a really good question. We have resources here at the library. We have like lots of different lists of books that might work for different families. But then the first thing I would say is I absolutely bow with respect to every family needs to make the decisions about what's best for their children. I can make lists and say I think these might be possibilities, but I would never presume to say these are the books that you need to read to your child, because that child, as much as I love them, is not in my family. And so I think that always needs to be at the parental decision. But in terms of choosing books, it's such a good question. I kind of operate on there's no bad choice. Because if a parent or if I, whatever, with a little one, go and pick a bunch of books and then we get home and I start to read one of them or more than one of them and it doesn't work out or it isn't what I value or it isn't, to me that's golden, because then there's the conversation that can happen. Like, oh, you know what, I picked this book and actually I'm not enjoying it. It doesn't seem to have, and then we can talk about why we're not enjoying it, or if it doesn't go with values that we have. We can choose how we want to handle that, because I think there's power in children learning from adults that we too make mistakes and that we have opinions about things and we value them enough to share it. And I don't ever think they're too young for that, actually. And of course, when they're little bitty tiny ones, whatever we read to them is fine. I had a professor once that said, you know, you can read a phone book. As long as you read it with enthusiasm, they're absolutely going to love it. And he's right.
Yeah.
And so whatever I could say to relieve any pressure that parents might feel that, oh, I hope I make the right choice. Because I have had parents come in with the sweet parents, you know, come in and say, oh, I just want to make sure I get the right books for them. And then I say, well, the fact that you're in here wanting books is the rightest you can be. There's nothing you can do better than that. Just, you can find out what your child likes, and over time you'll find out the kinds of books and things that they like. But I just don't think you can make a bad choice.
I love that, to use that as a teaching moment.
Yeah, I think.
With your children.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
That's cool. Thank you. Okay, so you've seen a lot of good examples of parenting.
I have.
You've seen some less good examples of parenting over the
I
years.
have.
I think a lot of moms especially worry about the judgment of a librarian when they
Yes.
come to a public place.
Yes.
I'm sure there are judgy librarians out there, but I would say for the most part, a children's librarian knows that there are really active kids that pull books off the shelves.
Absolutely.
And there are
Wants
children
them
that
to.
throw tantrums.
Yes.
And those,
Yes.
that's just something that happens.
It
So I'm
is.
wondering, what do you actually notice? What's actually cringeworthy to a children's librarian?
Well, I can tell you what's cringeworthy to this children's librarian.
Sure.
And what I call, and I will explain it when I say cringeworthy. When this happens, it doesn't happen often, thank goodness, for many reasons. When it happens, I usually have to go to the back for a bit and just breathe, because I can't really be in the presence of it. It's when someone is devaluing their child, saying things in a way that, saying things to a child that we would never say to each other as an adult. Now maybe that person would or something, I don't know. But saying things like, you don't have to take care of things, so we're not going to check anything out. I try really hard to respect that everybody is on their own journey and not to put, a judgment on anything that someone is saying or doing within, I guess, reasonable limits. But those words are hard to hear. You don't know how to take care of anything, so we're not going to let you check out, or I'm just tired of you being around me. Those kind of things are just really, they're tough to hear. I don't for a moment think they're intentionally, knowingly doing something to deliberately hurt their child now, and even as I believe it can continue, as they continue to grow, that those words stay, it's still devastating. So that's,
Well, as someone who still hears words as an adult that you heard as a child, that's, we all have those records playing in our head of the negative.
We do, and I know that I believe that we're all doing the best that we can at any given time. It's just that sometimes our best, that our kids need more than our best, if that makes sense.
Well, on that note, I wonder, obviously a big part of your job is working with the children.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a children's librarian do it in quite the same way, where you take real opportunities to teach the parents in your story time, and talking about ways to read, or things that you should make sure, questions to ask when you read, or singing with your children. It seems that that's a real goal of yours as well. So I wonder how you view that relationship, how you view your role as a children's librarian, both with the children but also as a teacher of parents.
Oh wow, that's a really good question. I see the role of a children's librarian very much like I see the role of a parent, and very much like I see the role of a teacher, and that is we're all in it together to help our children be all that they can be, whatever that is. So if I have an opportunity to say, when you're reading aloud to your children, as much as possible, if we can all remember not to use the word no when we ask a question. Because if we say, what do you think is going to happen, and the child gives us an answer that in our head we're thinking, there's no way that's what's going to happen. To find our temptation as an adult naturally is just say, no, that's not right, or no, that isn't what's going to happen. But if we can find a way at that moment in our mind, just instantaneously to shift it around and say something like, well, you never know. Let's read, because then our children will always want to answer our questions, and they will always want to take a risk. And I really have learned that from children over the years, is to handle the questions tenderly as much as possible. And of course, do I slip at times? Of course I do. We all do. I just try really hard to be conscious to handle my responses to their responses really tenderly. And then I think the door is more likely to stay open.
Okay. Okay, are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. Kathleen, what is your favorite sound?
Children's laughter.
What's your least favorite sound?
Anything loud and grinding.
Okay.
Like a chainsaw or a motor. Yeah, I can stand
Okay.
that.
What's your favorite word?
This is interesting. My favorite word, this took me a long time to think about, it's away. Because when I was in the first grade, my first grade teacher was teaching us to read, and she wrote the word away up on the board. I can still hear the chalk on the board. And she said, today we are going to learn a very big and important word. The word is away. I can just hear it. And then she said, let's all say it together, away. And this book is going to take us away to places that we've never been. And I so remember that, and I'm 6 years old at the time.
Oh,
So I have
so
to say away,
beautiful.
isn't it? I know.
That's a great answer.
Well, I
You
love,
might
yeah.
win the prize for that one. That's really good.
Wow, but this due to her, I can just see her hand, and I can say this as a 63-year-old, her arm, you know, had the flappy stuff
Oh,
on. I'm
yeah.
just like, mine doesn't. And she was like, away. And it was just like she really just put me on a magic carpet, and then it just went. It was just something.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Kathleen, what do you know?
I've given this a lot of thought. What I know is that the single most important thing that I believe, that I know, is that to let each other, but particularly our children, know they matter. Because that's what we all want. I don't care if we're 3 weeks old, 6 years old, 20 years old, 63 years old, we want to know that we matter. And I think as long as every person, but certainly every child, has at least one, and hopefully many more than that, but at least one person in their life that they know in their core that they matter to, then things are okay. And when they don't feel they matter, then to me that's when, you know, catastrophe can really happen. Because if you don't feel you matter, then what's the point?
Yeah, absolutely. What do you want to learn?
I want to learn how to keep learning. I really enjoy learning. I just want to continue, but I want to continue to learn how to be in this world and be a presence for good, whatever that is, to whoever that is. I make a lot of mistakes, and I try to learn from them, and that's what I want to keep learning, keep going.
What scares you?
Well, I touched on it just a little bit ago with what I know. I'm scared about where we are as a nation in many ways, and as a world. And I sound old and curmudgeon-y when I say it. I'm very concerned. I don't think things were in any way ideal or perfect with my generation growing up. Far from it. I'm very concerned that our children live in a world where someone says there was a shooting, and then someone else will say, well, which one? It just takes me to my core. That's not how I think life should be for any of us, but particularly for our children. And I will say this to you as a parent, and if anybody's watching this, it sounds really selfish, and I'll own it. I'm really grateful that I'm not a parent, because I'm just not sure what I would do. I would hope I would know what I would do, but it just seems so overwhelming. It just seems so overwhelming. I have so much to learn from you all as parents, because as I think of it, I just think I have a hard enough time handling it with myself, within our own family, those kind of things. I don't know if I was a parent what I would do, what I would say that would really help my child feel safe, because I'm just not sure where that is anymore. Exactly.
That's something to be scared of.
It is. It is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What are you good at?
Well, talking. I can talk a lot. I think I'm good with children. I think so. It is my intent to be. Certainly far from perfect, but I think I'm good with children, and I really enjoy writing, and so I think I'm pretty good at writing. I'd say those two things. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for
Thank
meeting
you.
with me today.
Oh, thank you. It's really an honor, and I love the reality of parenting. So watching parents. So when a child is losing their temper or whatever, I never see that as a sign that something's wrong with that parent. In fact, I see it as the opposite, that child is being themselves, and the parent's going to handle it. And so I really admire the parenting that you and so many do in these really challenging times.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.